So the question on the table today is, what fight are you fighting? What timetable are you resisting? What tide are you trying to hold back? What trend are you denying? I've been theoretically in the music business for 25 years. I've spent almost that entire time fighting every conceivable technological trend. I ignored MySpace, I ignored Facebook, I ignored iTunes, I just ignored the whole thing, ignored YouTube, still to this day. I got blinders on and I refuse to take them off. I don't understand it. It's entirely to my detriment, but I just do that. That's what I've done. Are you watching the American political process right now and feeling like you have a fight to fight? Is the entire election a put up your dukes type experience, But do you feel like just doing this all the time? Or is there a relationship you've got? Spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, child, parent, coworker relationship that feels like a fight. They want to change you, you want to change them. It's not working, but God, you're going to make it work. If we just fix this, if we just wait for that, as soon as that's over, as soon as we've gotten there, as soon as we've made that move, as soon as we've made that money, whatever it is, as soon as I get the raise, it'll all be fine. Then that's going to be good. We're going to lock right in, but right now it's just, it's just arm wrestling with your own life. Are you doing it? I'm doing it. Kind of constantly. And yet, there's something I do. I do workshops based. I have an album called Water, and I do workshops based on this album because the album is like an entire philosophical. It's like 11 songs about all the same thing, about trust and surrender. And when I do workshops based on this Water album, I usually save for last kind of like the crucial, central, simplest question that I can ask in this workshop. So I'm just going to jump right to the end of a workshop with you and just pose this question for you. Ask yourself, what are the best things in your life? Okay, what are they? Anybody got your abs or your hair? I don't know, you can be as shallow as you want. Your family, your pet, friends. Yeah, this community, Unity Church. Yeah. Vacation home, retirement fund, your career, your passion, your art, your spouse, your kids, right? Whatever. All these things. So then the logical follow-up question is, well, how did it, whatever it is for you, how did it get there? Did you put it there? Was it taught to you in a college class how to raise the child who's the central focus and greatest love of your life? Did you plan to cross the street accidentally and meet the love of your life, your spouse? Or did you drop out of college and take a part-time job that became a lifelong career and passion intentionally or accidentally? Which one was it? I absolutely believe, by the way, that we make daily decisions just an unending stream of decisions as to how we're going to respond to life as it happens. No question about it. But you can disagree with me, and I'm sure some of you do. I do not believe that we create necessarily or consistently the next thing that is going to come to us. I don't believe we create it. I believe we respond. Some respond better than others. Some days you respond better than other days, right? But so the question is, how did the best things in your life get there? Unless you believe, like I said, unless you believe that you manifested it, that you formed it in your mind, and magically it appeared the next day. or in the next year, whatever it is. If that's the case, you believe that, that's great. I don't personally believe that. I generally, and I've done like workshops like that thousands, hundreds of times for sure. Only a couple of times has anybody taken full credit for like the spouse. You know, usually, or the pet. You know, we have a dog, Lucky, who's Lucky. He's getting a little chubby. He's kind of a full adult now. When we met him, he was a baby. At the beginning of the pandemic, you know, the world shut down. Every kid disappeared from the street. Jude was 6 or 7. And he was suddenly very lonely, right? Well, except we had a little dog named Gigi, who was very funny looking, scruffy, like sort of very thick, wiry black hair. But she was tiny, and not tiny like a Chihuahua, but pretty small and adorable, friendly and funny. And then Gigi died, and not old. She died young. She died from accidentally finding an open trap with rat poison in it. And she died. And it absolutely broke all 3 of our hearts, but especially Jude. So suddenly, not only were there no kids and no school and no parties and no beach and no parks, but his little puppy had died. And he very quickly was asking us for another dog. But my gauge for whether we were ready for another dog was, if we say the name Gigi, does everybody in the family start crying? And if so, it feels a little premature. That was kind of where we were at, Melina and I. But he was consistent for 2 or 3 or 4 months. When are we going to get another dog? When are we going to get another dog? And so we decided, okay. Except it turns out, if you remember, maybe you don't, if you happen to have looked for a dog back then, during the pandemic, it was nearly impossible to find one. People adopted them by the millions, I guess for company, whatever it is. And in Orange County, where we live, the only dogs in the shelters were Chihuahuas and Pit Bulls. I don't even need to explain why. And I mean, by the thousands. We could have had 100 Chihuahuas and Pit Bulls, but no other dog was available in any shelter, and in any listing of any charity. There were no dogs, which, you know, obviously it's a wonderful circumstance for most dogs, right? But Jude kept asking, when are we going to get another dog? So Melina said, how about we call PetSmarts, PetSmart stores. They have animal adoption sometimes. I called like 12 PetSmarts. They all had the same answer: oh, we're not doing adoptions right now. Because I guess, if you remember, everyone was afraid to breathe air, so nobody went outside. So even though they were outdoors, they wouldn't do it. One PetSmart was having one pet adoption day in Yorba Linda, hometown of Richard Nixon, coincidentally, for no other reason I just mentioned it. And so it's a 20-minute drive from our home. PetSmart in Yorba Linda had a dog adoption on noon on a Saturday. And we went, and on our drive there, where Jude is 8 at that point, and we're like, just so you know, don't get your hopes up. There may be 2 dogs, there may be 20, there may be 12 people, there may be 100 people. We have no idea. Every dog is people were adopting dogs before even meeting them, which did not seem like a good idea. It just doesn't. So we get out of and Jude's like, I understand. It's not likely. We'll just try. We're just trying. So we get out of the car, we walk up to the PetSmart, and a woman is unpacking cages, crates, and a few dogs in these different crates, and she runs her own private thing, her own little charity for dog adoption, and PetSmart is hosting her. And there she was, and there's an older man sitting on a chair holding a black dog, and we looked at this dog, and it looked like Gigi, but twice as big and a boy. Same, funky, obviously a mutt. And it looks like Gigi's bigger cousin. what the heck? And nobody could ever identify what Gigi was. Couldn't identify what this thing was. And we said, we assume, I said, I assume this dog, somebody has an appointment to meet this dog. And he said, actually, somebody has an appointment for every other dog. But this dog was just given to us a few days ago. It was off the streets in Tucson. And so we don't even have this dog on our website. This dog has not had shots or vaccines or anything. This dog is unlisted and unknown, and he is available for adoption. And we walked him around the PetSmart, and we walked back to the front, and I said, anybody feeling a no? Jude's like, I'm not feeling a no. Melina says, I'm not feeling a no. And he said, okay, we'll take him. And she said, well, I need a couple days. I'm going to give him his shots and all this. And we got him home, and the first day he ran away 3 times. 3 times. The third time successfully. And he was found a mile away. Somebody called, and the woman running the charity said, dogs freak out. Who would expect anything else? Of course he did. He freaked out. He ran. He'll be found. He'll be fine. It's just a new, and we have a big open feral yard, undeveloped, just a mess. So it's like a great place for a dog. So he didn't run because he was like suddenly contained. He just ran. So that day, the next morning, I went and got Lucky, and he was gone overnight. I thought he was gone. I didn't tell Jude went to sleep. I didn't wake him up to tell him the dog we just brought home is gone. Next morning, I go to the car and go to the house where he was found, and I say, "You want to go home?" And he hopped in the car, came inside the house, jumped on the couch, and hugged us. Leaned in. He had never had a home, had never had a bowl of food, and we know that because when we put out food that first day, he waited until we left the room and snuck in to eat, right? And that day, we said, "Jude, what do you want to call him?" And Jude said, "I think he's lucky to find us, and we're lucky to find him, so let's call him Lucky." And that is how we met our lucky dog, who is, some of you, if you have dogs, the heart and soul of our little family. My favorite bumper sticker I've ever seen, probably of any kind, is a picture of a dog. It says, "Who rescued whom?" And from the pandemic and the loneliness and the fear and the anger and the isolation, from the ending of my work and the ending of Melina's work, and the sadness that took over our son and the passing of little Gigi, Lucky came in and made us smile, and has been making us smile ever since. So how did we get Lucky? The only dog available at the only dog adoption event in all of Orange County. We did not put Lucky there. So, back to the question for you. How did the best things in your life get there? Did you put them there? Or did you find them? Did they find you? So, what is it you're worried about? If the best things that have shown up in your life and mine, if the best things were the unplanned ones, why is it exactly that we feel the need to plan so meticulously? If good things happen when we're not looking, when we're not holding on to the steering wheel, when we don't tell ourselves we're in charge, why is it so often that we tell ourselves we must be in charge? And if relationships come and go, we know, we've experienced enough in this room. Can you imagine how many boyfriends, girlfriends, marriages, and ex-marriages there are in this room? Right? And yet, I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand, but are you right now, at this very moment, either trying to change someone or is someone trying to change you? Right at this very moment. Why? When are we going to learn? It's why I sang that song, I learn and I forget. What is it exactly I think I'm going to do that I've never been able to do before to make something right when it isn't right? or to deny something that is clearly mine to do, that I can't stop doing, you know. In the world of health, it's a frequent language is, you know, you got to fight this. Cancer, whatever diagnosis, you're going to fight it. You know, it's always, you know, like it's an adversarial thing. And I get it. You know, knock on whatever. I've never been diagnosed with cancer, except a little skin cancer. I've never had to, you know, go to war with something in my own body. So I get it. I'm not judging it. But does the feeling of going to war with it serve the healing? I don't know, but my gut feeling says no. And actually, maybe even more so. Does the feeling of fighting bring peace of mind or healing? In other words, does it make your life better to feel like you're at war with a diagnosis, with arthritis or cancer or Parkinson's? You know, the last line of that song, the song "When It's Time," you know, when it's time we go back to where we're from. I don't mean to be defeatist about it. I actually kind of take some comfort from the thought. You know, this is a very flawed system, little bag of bones Danny's walking around in. You know, it's brittle, it's fragile, it's complicated, it fails all the time in all kinds of ways. I mean, I haven't been able to see clearly since I was 6. Whose idea was that? You know, I've got hair coming out of my ears for no apparent reason. Whose idea was that? It's clearly not, you know, you can call it perfect in a general sense, but is it perfect on a day-to-day basis? No, you know. But it came out of the ground. Me came out of the ground, and one day it goes back into the ground. In between, I can spend my time fighting. I can try to fight for a career or fight for a certain kind of success. I can. And we've all seen movies, and we've all probably known people. Maybe you are those people. Maybe you are one of those people who fought for a career, who elbowed other people out of the way, who you know, was kind of a killer at business or whatever it was. There are killers in business. They are. We know them when we see them. Steve Jobs was a killer in business, in Apple. You know, there's what's his face, Bezos, clearly a killer. It's like, you know, he's got the second or third highest net worth of any human who's ever lived, but he's still trying to put, you know, little companies out of business and crowd out competitors like he has any competitors at this point. He's a killer. He's a fighter. However, to me, I'd rather be me than him, because I don't know if he sleeps at night. I mean, have you ever been at war with something? Have you ever sued somebody? Right? It's like being an entrepreneur, isn't it? From everything I've heard, the lawsuit doesn't end when you go to sleep. You dream about it. You wake up mad, you go to sleep mad. Every dollar you make goes to the lawyer. It never ends. There's always an appeal. It's all so adversarial. And sometimes you got to do it. I get it. But I remember reading in a magazine once asking rock stars, if you knew, what would you tell the younger you if you knew then what you know now? And one of them said, if I knew then what I know now, I would never sue anybody. And it stuck in my head, because he had been embroiled in songwriting lawsuits and record company lawsuits, and it never ends. I mean, just speaking only from the music, this huge, tiny sliver of examples, but you think about, if you remember, Prince was involved in massive, maybe you don't remember, massive lawsuit stuff with his record company. George Michael, peak of his career, brilliant. These are brilliant people. They got embroiled in legal stuff, and their careers were never the same. Not because they didn't have the opportunity to make music, but you could feel the life force had gone into a fight. instead of into a song. So where's your life force going? What fight are you fighting? What natural beginning or natural ending or natural organic state of a certain relationship are you denying, even though it's right in front of your face? Because it's just too hard to admit it, just too hard to let it go, or just too hard to let it in. If you've, I sing the song "One Power," and maybe I'll sing it now. I don't know if I have time, but the song "One Power" is about sort of an acknowledgement that all the world's faiths are sort of praying to the same God, and that love is at the heart of all of them. Even if the rules are different, the clergy is different, the holidays are different, but fundamentally, we all seem to be craving the same feeling of sacred love. And if I were to say that in certain circles, I'd be thrown out of my ear for being some kind of weird global conspiracist or whatever it is. I mean, it would be like some wild fantasy world where there are no borders between countries and no differences between religions, and no one religion's right and no one religion is wrong, and all this stuff. It would really rile some people up. In my own family, traditional Jewish family, they completely do not believe that all the world's religions are the same value, or that everybody's praying to the same God. Absolutely not. Traditional Christian does not believe it. Traditional Muslim does not believe it. No club. Every club has rules to join. You know what I mean? So you got to enforce. But what I sometimes say is, if you think that borders are crucial, and you think that I'm right and you're wrong, I'm here and you're there, you don't get to come here, this is mine, that's yours. If you think all that is righteous, try crossing an international border sometime and see how long it takes for you to feel like the whole thing is freaking ridiculous. You stand there with a piece of paper, wait in line for an hour to show it to a stranger who then says, "Come on in. Now I get to come from here to there." What did we just do? Most painful is when you're trying to get into your own country. If you ever gone to Canada or Mexico or tried to cross the border back and had to wait an hour, or be interrogated, or have your bags checked to see if you have any oranges in them, or whatever. Meanwhile, birds are flying overhead over this supposed impenetrable border, carrying the seeds of every conceivable fruit, And I'm like, my bag of oranges is not gonna, I don't know if I'm being coherent here. But when you decide that you have a border to defend, though the life of defending it has just begun. And guess what? It never ends. Whatever your border is, whatever your last stand, whatever your Berlin Wall. Can you imagine? I understand. Communist Russia, whatever it is, wanted to keep East Berliners in. Got it. But how much money and manpower did they then spend for however many decades, 20 years? How much did they then have to spend to defend that wall? It's exhausting to defend a wall. You ever played Risk, the board game Risk? You try to conquer Asia. Good luck with that. There's like 8 border countries. You're always vulnerable. It's exhausting. You don't get to do anything else. You don't know what I'm talking about. You don't know what I'm talking about. It's a game of world conquest, and you take over continents. A couple continents are not so hard to hold once you conquered them. Asia, nightmare. It's exhausting to hold a border, to hold a wall. It's exhausting to keep out something that's just bound to come in. Ask the Army Corps of Engineers how hard they work when something's flooding, when the sea levels are rising. Welcome to the world of $180 billion building projects. Oh yeah, we're gonna hold back the ocean. Good luck with that, right? Because once you start, and once you build that wall, then of course, people are gonna put houses and parks and high rises behind the wall. well, then you can never let the water in. So you've just established yourself a 1,000-year project, because water is always going to beat concrete and rebar. So you're going to have to be reinforcing it forever. That's going to be very expensive. The walls that you and I are holding up, the fights that we are fighting, are more expensive than we realize. I've asked this question now 3 or 4 times. What fight are you fighting? And maybe you're thinking, I don't know what he's talking about. I'm not fighting any fights. I'd suggest you ask yourself again, no, really. Am I fighting against growing old? Am I fighting against this friendship being over because I can't bear the thought? Am I fighting against one or other political candidate for president or senator or whatever? Right? Am I walking around like this? And if so, what's it doing to my shoulder muscles? What's it doing to my jaw? What's it doing to my hands? How clenched are they? What's it doing to my sleep? What's it doing to my stomach acid? What's it doing to the rest of my relationships? What's it doing to my quality of work? What's it doing to my peace of mind? If the best things in our lives come when we're not looking, not controlling, and not fighting, why wouldn't we let in a little bit more of that? Just a little. Consider the possibility that your fight does not need to be fought. Just consider it. There's one last story, a little quick one that I just thought was really interesting. Years ago I read a king. This is an ancient, I think it's a Taoist story, but I'm not sure. A king knocks on the door of a peasant man of his little house. And the man opens the door, and the king says, and it says, "King." And the king says, "Submit." And the man welcomes him into his house, sits him in the only nice chair in the house, and spends the next however many years washing his feet, feeding him, tending to his every need. And one day the king dies, and the man stands over the king and says, "I will not submit." Everything begins and everything ends. The fight usually hurts the fighter far more than the opponent. You don't have to battle to win. Or as the Tao says, if you do not compete, no one can compete with you. So let me close with a song. You have the track, it's a song called Middle Ground. Just in case when I mention about fighting, all you're thinking about is the presidential election. This song was written during the last presidential election, which I think was even more awful than this one. Maybe you don't want to think back, but if you do, it was pretty horrible. And I wrote this little song, and then my friend Nemo was over, and he heard it and liked it, and I said, well, then how about you add a rap to it? So when you're going to hear me sing, and you're going to hear Nemo rap. And by the way, I'm doing a concert today at 1 o'clock. There's a potluck, right? There's food. And maybe, can I do another song during the offering? Or we have a little time? Okay, so we'll close with, let me just close what I've done here today. Whatever it is, it's just intended to provoke some thoughts. That's all I'm doing. And hopefully you enjoyed the songs as well. And here's this song called Middle Ground. Here we go. There's a left and a right. Nobody ever seems to unmake up their mind and find the in-between. It's an endless fight. Nobody can agree. Well, maybe it's time that you and I should meet in the middle ground. gonna find it. Yeah, in the middle ground. Gonna find it in the middle ground.
Where I wanna be, but nobody sees what I wanna see. So I gotta leave what I'm trying to dream, cause everybody says
Nemo got no practicality, so I'm backing down the beat.
little humble in my plea. We don't see eye to eye, but that don't mean that you are mean. What I'm really trying to say is what I really mean, no matter what our difference is.
That I believe we'll meet in the middle ground. Gonna find it. Yeah, in the middle ground. I've been thinking of a simple place that we can meet, a place that we can be, a place that we can dream. And I know you've been thinking of the same place just like me. So why don't we just stop for a beat in the middle ground? Does anyone know how to get there? Or have I lost my mind? Should I just let go and not care? Or do I dare to find the middle ground? Oh yeah, gonna find it. Do, 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 do. Oh yeah, do, 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 do. There's a left and a right. Everyone's tempted to say that the world is black and white when it's a million shades of gray.
Everybody's got their differences, but we can still be listening. We don't have to be missing out, creating so much dissonance.
We are brothers and sisters, no matter what your position is.
Divided, we will fall together, we will make a difference.
So what if a compromise is the answer that we seek? It's the middle ground.
Oh yeah.
United we stand, divided we fall now. Together we can make a difference. It's the middle ground. United we stand, divided we fall now. Together we can make a difference. It's the middle ground. I've been thinking of a simple place that we can meet, a place that we can be, a place that we can dream. And I know you've been thinking of the same place just like me. So why don't we just stop for a beat in the middle ground, middle ground, middle ground. Yeah, a place that we can be, a place that we can be. And I know you've been thinking of the same place just like me. So why don't we just stop for a beat in the middle ground?
It's me again. Mitch bailed on me this morning. He wanted to sit in the back row, so he's back there somewhere. Everyone is invited at 1 p.m. for Daniel's concert this afternoon. Tickets are $20, but please don't let the cost keep you from coming. Give what you can. Friends, this is how Daniel makes his living, and it's how we as Unity of Springfield can have wonderful guests like this. Everyone is invited, of course, to the potluck right after the service. Meditation is at 6 p.m. tonight, and everyone is welcome to attend. The mat makers are meeting every Thursday at 10 a.m. This group weaves sleeping mats out of plastic bags, which are then donated to folks who are unsheltered. The mats provide a waterproof barrier between them and the ground when they sleep. Their goal is to make 100 mats in 100 days, and they would love your help. And I'm sure you can talk to...
We just made 50 on the 50th day.
Wow.
Yay! There are lots of things you can do, though. Just even flattening out plastic bags for them, or then trimming them, or whatever. They've got all kinds of things you can do if you don't want to come to the church on Thursday. Ask Susan. She'll set you up with something. Our group visit to Unity Village is this Tuesday, October 8th. If you plan to go, please sign up in the foyer before you leave today. The tour begins at 10, and those who want to carpool will meet here at the church at 6:15 that morning. We will have lunch together, and after lunch, you are free to explore the grounds. Lunch is not provided, so you can either bring your own, and they are giving us a room where we can have our lunch, or you can give Lisa $10 and we'll order some takeout.
This is a tour of Unity Village, is that what you said?
We
When-
go
when it-
every year too.
When is it?
Tuesday.
This coming Tuesday?
Uh-huh.
I'll be at Unity Village on Tuesday.
Well, good.
You know what? If you've never been there, it's kind of ridiculously beautiful. It's shocking. It's hundreds of acres of land, and it is a beautiful place to see. If you've never seen it, you think that we hear the words Unity Village. If you've never been there, you don't know what to picture. Picture like basically sort of a college campus sort of buildings with rolling hills. It's big enough for a golf course, a little hotel. There's deer walking around. It's in forest. It's a beautiful place to see if you've never been. There's a lovely little gift shop and coffee shop. You know, how many people are going so far?
I think we have like 15 or so,
Oh,
maybe.
yeah, okay. So you are already convinced. I don't need to say anything.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
We go
yeah.
about every other year
That's wonderful. That's really, but if you happen to be there, are you going to be there Tuesday night or just during the day?
during the day.
Ah, it's too bad because we're doing a concert locally there Tuesday night. Oh, you just heard me sing. Never mind. You're coming through. Never mind. Sorry. Anyway, it really is worth seeing. It's worth seeing if you've never been there. Take a day and go. It's a beautiful place.
If you would stop out at the table, if you're signed up to go, and indicate if you will be a driver or you want to ride with someone. So far, we only have riders, and we need a few drivers. So
You can talk to my cousin on the way if you feel like it.
she'd be excited about that.
She'd be excited. Yeah.
I'm sure. We will have a new member ceremony on October the 20th during our service. If you've been attending regularly for 6 months and would like to become a member, the applications are on the welcome desk. Applicants must attend the new member orientation on next Sunday, the Sunday before on October 13th, right after the service. Please turn your application into the office by this Tuesday, October 8th. Next Sunday in the 9:15 New Thought and World Religion Adult Education class, Paul Day will present part 1 on the teachings of Joseph Campbell. Small groups are starting the week of the 13th. The book we'll be studying is Braving the Wilderness by Brené Brown. We have 4 people signed up to host. Take a look at the days and times for each and sign up for one that works best for you. Please purchase the book so it arrives prior to your first meeting. And if anyone has not experienced those small groups, they are wonderful. You form friendships that last and last and last. And you have people that'll bring you food if you need it or visit you in the hospital or whatever. The groups usually remain in touch for a long time, so they are wonderful. From November 1st to March 31st, we run a crisis cold weather shelter. This means when the overnight temperature is forecast to be 32 degrees or below, we open our doors for 25 people to come in and sleep. And we need your help. We're having a shelter volunteer meeting on October 15th at 6 p.m. This meeting is for current and new volunteers. If you're on the fence about volunteering, please come and hear what it's all about. There's lots of ways there, too, to volunteer, even if you don't feel moved to come in for the evening. There's no obligation to sign up, so if you want to help out but don't know what you could do, please come to this meeting. If you have any questions, please talk to Lisa or Lacey. Lacey, are you in here or are you in the kitchen? Must be in the kitchen. We are beginning the 5th week of our 8 items and 8-week shelter donation drive. What is this? The 8 items are things we use a lot of in our cold weather shelter. The 8 weeks are leading up to the start of the shelter season. Bring all 8 items before the end of the 8 weeks to be entered in a drawing for $100. There are lists on the table in the foyer. If you don't like to shop, we have an Amazon wish list, and you can order all 8 items, and they'll be shipped to the church.
What are the 8 items? You don't have it? That's it. What an amazing
They're
idea.
like oatmeal, toilet paper, coffee, sugar, hot chocolate, cup of, thank you.
Yeah. What a righteous thing to do for a whole community.
It sure-
That's an amazing thing to do. I don't know if I've heard any other church doing that. It's spectacular. I'm so pleased, and it's beautiful.
It
Really
is
beautiful.
amazing, and it's
Yeah, it's
done a
amazing.
lot for this congregation
I have no
to pull
doubt.
us
Everybody wins.
together.
Everybody wins. That's
Yes,
incredible.
yeah. Bring all 8 items before the end of the 8 weeks to be entered in the $100 drawing. There are lists on the table in the foyer. If you don't like to shop, we have an Amazon wish list, and you can order all 8 items, and they'll be shipped to the church. Please stand and join me in the prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.